What did you both want Olin to get out of the cube?
So, like, as Cube was being planned, like, the place that I wanted it to live in history was, like, somewhat analogous to the, like, legendary story of at MIT students disassembling some, like, professor or, like, dean's car and reassembling it on the roof. And in my head, like, Olin had such a safe and, like, not nearly ridiculous enough event in history that, like, I wanted this to be one of the things that sort of lived on as that weird, crazy thing that happened that one time. Like, I wanted people, like, 5 years from now to be like, did that really happen? No, I don't think that can happen. Like, surely that's a myth.
I wanted people who saw it in person to think, did that happen? Did that really happen? Like, I think there were probably people who, while they were seeing it, thought that at first. And, like, almost everyone did the same thing. They would, like, open the door leaving East Hall and then, like, stutter step for a moment and then stare at it and then, like, walk slowly over and touch it and then maybe touch it again and then, like, retreat and, like, walk away looking at it, which is just, like, it could not have been more perfect for what I had dreamed.
We're in a refrigerated truck that's 26 feet long in order to take 14,000 pounds of snow from 150 miles north of here back to Olin College, where we will build a 7-foot cube of snow on Olin's campus.
That's what we're here to do.
It's myself, Bill Wong, David Abrahams, and Shane Kelly. We had a lot of running jokes, and I think that the biggest platform for those jokes was like a friendship joke chicken, which I really liked. We would basically come up with an absurd thing and would keep saying, like, oh yeah, we're gonna build a snow cube in May, and if nobody ever said, no, we can't possibly build a snow cube in May, that's ridiculous, then we were just gonna do it. And it just kept going until finally our ribs on one another got more and more specific. We started brainstorming. Because one of the things that kept this joke alive is that David had mentioned, what if we built a snow cube in May? And immediately I was like, I know where there is snow in May. Once we were like 3 weeks out from graduation, nobody had said we shouldn't do it. We like looked up what the cost of a freezer truck, like a reefer truck big enough to hold enough snow, would cost, and like where you would rent such a thing. And once we discovered that it was like shockingly affordable to rent a 26-foot long reefer truck, that I think pushed us over the edge. We were like, oh, this is not just achievable, but like this is the funniest and most affordable of all of our options.
I think the moment that it no longer became a joke and like suddenly became something that I was thinking would actually happen was the moment that 4 of us went to Ryder Truck Rentals and we had to like pretend to be a company in order to get this specific fleet of truck, and there was a $2,000 down payment that while I was the driver I like was also going to pay for it up front because like the liability would fall to me. And so like without blinking an eye, pretending to be a company, I had to like not even break a sweat at this $2,000 down payment that I had to put down. And once I paid that, it was pretty real.
We show up in Boston and they had no idea what to do with us. We said we were getting a bunch of snow and she was like, snow, are you building a ski jump or something? And we were like, yep, that's easier to explain. So we ended up, she was like, I'm just gonna put David Abrahams as the company name. And so like every question that was related to being a company, she just like wrote David Abrahams. And then we had the truck. It was like laughably huge when we first interacted with it. Very much seemed like we should not be able to have this truck. but we did all the paperwork, we did all the planning, and we could. And so we did.
Oh, there we go. Oh, listen to it purr. Refrigeration. Mobile refrigeration. Yeah, so it's on and we can kick it off.
That's so good.
There was a small incident with a bridge.
We had encountered many bridges thus far, and they were like 18-foot bridges.
Or 14.4.
14.4.
That was the closest one we got.
We're like, wow, that's just so tall. We're not that tall. And then, like, I just, like, clinch the steering wheel as we drive under, prepared for, like, a screeching halt. But we went through every time,
Yeah.
and then finally we approached 11'3", the lowest number we'd encountered by a good margin. And so you have, like, the moments leading up. Like, we're not driving that fast. At this point, it's, like, kind of like a back roady area. And so you have lots of time to debate. Like, am I going to make the gamble that we're shorter than 11'3"? And
Did we not know how tall the truck was?
we did not.
Oh, jeez. I really thought we had looked at it.
We did not look because So we did end up stopping for the 11'3" bridge. And good thing, because we hopped out, checked our height, and we were 13 foot tall. So that would have gone very poorly.
And this is one of the great scenes of the entire process, which is that literally every time we encountered an obstacle during this entire process, because we had put so much time planning, we had a solution immediately ready. It was like a contingency that if we hadn't explicitly planned for, we had accidentally planned for. It is by far the smoothest project that I ever worked on at Olin. The best teaming experience, the most successful outcome. It was just overwhelmingly, like, we used Trello the most effectively out of any team I'd ever been on. It was just overwhelmingly the best group project that I've ever been on at Olin, maybe even since. And so Bill Wong, he had driven us to the rider to pick up the truck, and so we had his car, like, he was following us, right? And in his car, he had, like, orange high-vis safety vests and, like, cones and, like, batons. And so we set up cones, and we made the road one way. And Bill and I put on the vests and had the little waving things, and we, like, closed the road and made it a one-way road. And there was actually traffic, like, that we did direct. And then Shane backs up the truck with David's guidance into the nearest side street, and we unclose the road. Like, we pick the cones back up, and Shane turns us the other direction, and we like wound through a tiny little neighborhood in order to avoid the low bridges. It did not feel like we should belong in that neighborhood. A lot of people who were, like, ambiently out in their driveways gave us funny looks because we're a giant refrigerated truck. But we did make it back to Olin, parked at the bottom of Lot A, and we're a massive vehicle. So I think we occupied like 7 spaces wide or something like that. And we just parked it, like, perpendicular to the ordinary direction of cars parking. And the truck is so big, and then we went to dinner right after that. And you could just see the truck from the dining hall, and it was magnificent. And then halfway through dinner, my brother arrives. I had asked him to grab everything that was a shovel, looked like a shovel, or he thought might be able to be used like a shovel, and bring them to us. And in exchange, I would give him one of my dining hall vouchers for a meal. And he did, and he came with, like, his Camry was just like chock full of implements of destruction, like brimming with handles. Like, this car could not have fit another human being without being impaled on 18 handles. And we transferred them from his car to the back of the U-Haul. And those would be the tools we would use to get the snow once we got to New Hampshire. Every sub-team, because we had sub-teams, it was the best group project I've ever worked on, was named with a C. So we had the convoy sub-team, which was everyone who was going to be driving in the convoy up north to the snow.
There was Cash, which was the sub-team responsible for fundraising. And then I think it must have just been, and then it was Core, which was the sub-team responsible for building this, like, internal skeleton to the snow cube.
And this was all so official because we knew the weight limit of the truck. We had beforehand figured out exactly how much snow we would need to construct everything. Turns out that the amount of snow in a 7-foot cube is like 17,000 pounds. And the weight limit of the truck is like 13,500, 14,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So we had to have an entire sub-team whose designated task was to design, get the supplies, and build this the day of while we were transporting snow back. And I think that helped the magic a lot, because it would have been like a 6-foot snow cube and it ended up being like an 8-foot snow cube because of that core, and I think that made a difference.
We still needed 13,000 pounds of snow. We convoyed up, we drove to the mountain in the truck, and we had asked for permission. We got permission for as many things as we possibly could ahead of time because we wanted nothing to like stop the creation of Cube in the middle of the process. But we didn't have a solid plan there. That was the one chink in the well-planned everything. And so we backed the truck as close as we could dare. It's like 150 yards from the snow pile, which didn't seem long to us at first, but we did the first 2 loads of snow into blue bin into a cart wheeled over to the truck, and then blue bins out onto the hydraulic lift of the truck, because the truck, like, let alone the fact that it was huge, also had dangerous machinery attached to it, and we were still totally allowed to use it, which blows my mind. You know, we got 3 loads in, something like that, three wagon rides in, and then we see somebody walking in from the distance, and it's Rob, the general manager of the mountain, and he's got something in his hand, and he's like walking straight towards us. I walk out to meet him, and I say, "Hey Rob, you know me." He's like, "Oh yeah, sure, I've seen you. You guys here to get some snow?" And I was like, "Yep, we're hoping to get some snow." And he was like, "Me too." And what he had was like a little like foam cooler thing, and he was getting snow to have a snowball fight with some other people. Like, that's what he was there for. And so he was so excited about what we were doing, and he was even like, "I wish I knew about this sooner. I didn't see anything. Like, we would have just had a snowcat come out and push the snow into the truck for you." So, it would have taken an hour with the snowcat. It took us like 7 hours with manual labor. At any rate, the thing that he did, which helped us a lot, that wasn't the snowcat, was he said, "Just back the truck right up to the snow." And so he directs Shane in the truck, like partway up the ski slope. We got it within, like 150 feet rather than 150 yards from the snow pile. And that sped things up a lot, and that saved us, I think. And so we just, we shoveled. Almost everyone who's there is from like California or Texas, and they've like never shoveled before in their lives. And so there were like some East Coast people who were efficient, and then there were some West Coast people who spent 3 hours learning, and 7 hours of backbreaking, sweaty labor later, we had a little over 13,000 pounds of snow in the truck. And so we drove south. There's a great song called "Convoy" that we listened to while convoying.
It was the dark of the moon on the 6th of June, and the Kenworth pulling logs. Cab over beat with a reefer on and a Jimmy
We got a reefer on! We got a reefer! We have a reefer and it's on! We have it! It's over there! It's full of snow!
And Team Convoy pulls in, and we pull into Olin and pull up right in between the dorms. And this no longer could be quiet. Like, at this point, like, the truck is so loud, especially with the freezer unit on, and it's giant.
I think that attracted a lot of attention from people in the nearby residence halls and just around campus. And so it actually ended up being this like really cool experience of just random people around campus coming and like seeing this really cool thing happening and then like suddenly pitching in.
People started trickling out to see what was going on, and like before we even assembled it into a cube, the look of joy on people's faces when they like saw like Shane Kelly get out of a giant truck and then we throw open the door and it's full of snow. Like snow in May is magical, and even before you turn it into something strange, like it's not like it was beautiful to see that, and it was beautiful to see folks come out of Olin who we hadn't talked to at all, and just like they saw the shovels, they saw the snow, they saw the beginnings of the cube, and they were like, oh, I understand what's happening here. I'm going to help.
So very quickly and like in an unplanned way, we had like probably like 20 people all of a sudden like around pitching in and like grabbing shovels and just like digging out of the truck, and then we ended up with this like big conveyor of people like starting from the deepest depths of the truck, like shoveling out snow to the middle of the truck, and then another group of people shoveling from the middle to the edge, and then from the edge I think probably into blue bins and like down the little elevator at the back of the truck. It ended up being more of like something that we used to rally people together, and so like the price we paid for the secrecy was kind of like the cool community that ended up being built around it.
It was a resounding success to build the cube. Everything went much better than it had any right to.
This is your rubber duck. You got a copy on me, Big Ben? Come on. Oh yeah, 10-4, Big Ben, for sure, for sure. By golly, it's clean clear to Flagtown. Come on. Yeah, it's a big 10-4 there, Big Ben. Yeah, we definitely got the front door, good buddy. Mercy sakes alive, looks like we got us a con.